Good day and welcome to the Nuix Ringtail demonstration and webinar. This is an exciting opportunity for everyone in the e-discovery space and the broader industry. Nuix is over the moon with that we've been able to bring these two great technologies together, and really excited about bringing them to you in the broader market to really help solve many of the problems that we face around automation, integration, simplification, and being able to really take that next reach into the marketplace around delivering analytics smoothly and cleanly to every attorney around the globe, all backed by the power of the industrial strength Nuix processing engine. And so I don't want to spend too much time on the slides, because really the whole motive of today is to introduce you to the technology. And here today with me, I've got Emily Tice. Emily has been with Ringtail for, I believe, 13 years, has a world of experience, not only as a user of Ringtail prior to joining, but has basically worked with litigations, clients, matters of all shapes and sizes to really hone and deliver Ringtail as a superior review and analytics platform. You know, we use all of the adjectives around industrial grade, enterprise, and we truly feel that at Nuix. And in the last couple of days, and actually, Emily, I guess I'll kick to you for a second just to say hi and
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be coming to you on my first Nuix broadcast, and excited to potentially work with you after this if you like what you see.
Brilliant. Thank you, Emily. And so one of the great things about that we've been getting the feedback over the last, say, 72 hours since making the announcement is, you know, people are coming out and the accolades are fantastic. People that have used Ringtail in the past and are excited about using it again. And we've also had numerous people that have a dated view of what Ringtail was 3, 5, 7, 10 years ago. And so Nuix is really on a mission to use our megaphone to reintroduce Ringtail to the world. And so you'll see us all over the place. We've got our user conference next week. We'll be traveling around getting the word out, you know, and really a big push and a loud and proud conversation about you know, how proud we are and the great capabilities that we're bringing to market. You know, and everything from, you know, how Ringtail can be used to accelerate case outcomes, how it can be used to operationalize the business of review, and really all of the great capabilities to drive that across the enterprise into service providers and across the entire e-discovery and legal services community. You know, one of the things that is so exciting about the marriage of Ringtail and Nuix is really the ability to tackle some of the biggest projects in the world. You know, Nuix has proven time and time again that we can scale the processing to handle hundreds of terabytes of information. And Ringtail has proven that it can handle hundreds of millions of items within a given review. And so you take the pairing of these two technologies with both of us having a long-standing relationship and true day one integration. It's a phenomenal partnership immediately from the word go, all the way through the automation and simplification to be able to deliver a true end-to-end capability for the broader e-discovery marketplace. And so while today we're just going to be focusing on an end-to-end, and I would call it an end-to-end Ringtail tour of the capabilities from all the way across the spectrum to introduce you, or quite frankly, reintroduce you to all of the great capabilities in Ringtail. You know, Nuix as a broader platform gives you that true end-to-end e-discovery capability. You know, everything from the endpoint all the way to the courtroom. We now offer a single common platform that pairs industrial grade processing with enterprise grade review and analytics. And quite frankly, we couldn't be happier about the introduction, and this is our first foray together. So actually with that, Emily, if you're ready, I will make you the presenter and off you go. I would encourage just on a bit of housekeeping. If anybody has questions throughout, please type them into the questions window. I will be monitoring that, and we'll either pick them off in turn or address them at the end. But please feel free to fire in any questions that you may have. And so with that, Emily, I'm going to make you the presenter, and off we go.
Okay, great. I'm just gonna figure out which monitor, and here we go.
Looking good.
So are you able? Okay, coming through. Great. All right. Thank you so much. And you can hear me okay?
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited to give you a tour of Ringtail today. Here I am. I'm logged into Ringtail, and I have a number of cases that I can work on here. But before I jump into those, I just want to talk a little bit about the area over here so you can see what it's like to run Ringtail. So in this portal management area, we have a few different things that I'll call out. There's some reporting here that is going to give you the ability to look across your cases and say, how many documents do I have? How much tipping or OCR have I done? How many processing jobs through the Nuix ingestion engine or production? So I can get that high-level reporting with the individual case detail. I get that same information here for those databases, but here I'm able to see the storage that's involved. How much space am I using for each Ringtail case? How many gigabytes does that mean that I'm managing? So this gives you that ability to look across your environment. I'll also point out here this column organization. And you'll see, for example, these first two cases are marked as belonging to Department A or Client A, then we have Client B and Client C. Ringtail supports multi-tenancy, and that includes the ability for you to, within your Ringtail account, to have these sub-accounts or sub-organizations. And this can be incredibly important for different departments, different practice areas, different clients, letting you segregate that and even have different people manage it with these silos being truly separate, but then easily allowing you to enable someone to work across if needed. So just pointing out the multi-tenancy capability there. Creating a case is quite simple. I just jump up to the top here. I'll see that there is a list of my cases, and it's incredibly common for us to have a template. So this is my personal one. It says master right there. This has all the settings I like to use. I don't like to start from scratch. It's got my fields and processing and production choices, and I just clone that case. I give it a name. I hit next, and in about 4 minutes, I have a brand new case that I can get working in. Once I've got a new case, I probably need to add some people to help me with that work. So I go make a new user, and I can do that right here. I can just fill out this screen with user credentials, password, email, etc., and get going. I can, if I have a list, I can upload them. I don't have to do them one by one. And once I've got a user, I'd say, great, I need you to help me in that new case I just made. I'm going to put you in one of those cases. And when I do that, I can actually, if I choose, I can say, you know what? I am going to restrict your access. You should only be able to get in there, during the workday, during the week. So maybe, if you have a contract attorney or folks who shouldn't be in there at the same time, you can do that. It's also possible to restrict by IP. So if you have sensitivity there, that's available. One more thing like that before we jump in and start looking at a case. You'll notice this case right here has a padlock. This means this case is a restricted user case. Folks sometimes use this for when they have an ethical wall situation where someone might have worked adverse to a party. Maybe there's an ITAR compliance issue here in the US or something similar overseas. Any reason that you want to make sure that you check something like that before somebody gets added, you mark the case as restricted. So that's our tour of our sort of high level across cases. And I'm going to just jump into a case now and show you what it's like to work in Ringtail. And you'll see I'll start, I'll show you something quickly, but then I'm going to jump right into, after that, showing you the integration that's been in place actually for years with the Nuix engine, which really powers the processing inside Ringtail. But first, here's the case dashboard. This is just giving me a nice look at information that's helpful for me when I first log in. And I can adjust it as needed. I can say, you know what, I want to look at it in a different way, or, I want to pivot off a different piece of information. And I'll just regenerate. So just some dashboarding here that can be helpful right off the bat to give you that high level information. So let's go ahead and jump to getting data into Ringtail. I'll go here. And the ingestion module here is the Nuix engine. So you'll see I've run some processing jobs in the past and run custodians. And to do that, all I did was click here, upload, and do three things. I go ahead and I browse for that data on my desktop. If it's a large set of data, I'll use the Aspera option here, which will help me get larger gigabyte volumes up into the cloud. So I do that, I browse my data. Then down here, I'm going to designate, who the custodian is. So I can, say, I'll just put my name, mine, and it's the first collection. Typing in a demo is always the hardest part, right? Here we go. Or if I have multiple custodians I'm using, I can do that. I can say, you know what, my upload actually has folders in it that tell me. The first folder tells me the custodian name, and that second folder tells me that collection information. So those are the two things, and the third one is just to check this box and say, go ahead and use the Nuix engine as soon as this is uploaded to process right into Ringtail. So that's what I go ahead and do. I hit save, and this starts to upload. Here's an example of one. I'll pick this one because it's the biggest that we've run in the past. So this is Vince Kaminsky. We had 6 PSPs for him, and he had quite a bit of email. That expanded out to about 47,000 documents. I chose to duplicate, so he had a lot of duplicates there. So you'll see that about 26,000 were duplicated. And we had some suppressed for NIST reasons. There is the option to suppress for other reasons like date range or search term or even system files and other designations. And I got about 16,000 documents out of that. Here I can see each of those PSTs that I processed. I'll see this first one here, 5,000 or so suppressed, and about 8,700 made it into Ringtail. So let's take a look at those. I'll click View, and we'll see the document view. So this is the document screen in Ringtail. This is what we call a Ringtail workspace, which is all about the layout. What's important to me to see? And this is a simple one. It's a browse and a list workspace. Those are the 2 panes that I've chosen to use. And here I see I have 8696 documents, just as I saw on the previous screen. And the list gives me a lot of cues right up front. This is an email, this is a Word document, this is an Excel. And the color of the icon tells me the coding of the document. So I can configure codes to have particular colors to inform me here in the list as well as later in visual analytics. The numbers next to the icons indicate whether the documents are hits for my search terms. So this first one has 2 hits for one of my search term lists. This one here with the 2 in the box hit on 2 of my lists. So there are 3 hits for privilege and 6 for search terms. So that's just a quick look at the list. The browse panel over here is doing some reporting for me. So it tells me of these 8696, 7 of the documents are in this important documents binder that maybe somebody put together. And I can find those 7 just by checking this box. They're now selected in my list. And I don't want to scroll through 8,700 documents, so I just click here to see those documents. And they're selected. This is my selected or working list. And I can do that in any section of the browse pane to go ahead and just facet and find what I'm looking for. The browse pane automatically gives me other information as well. I might be interested in the people who are showing up in the email addresses, or maybe in the domains that are showing up. And each time I can go ahead and check that box to go find those emails. Even something as simple as document types. It can be really helpful to just get this report and be able to say, what do I have and do I need to take anything into account? I can also open documents from here. We came from looking at a processing job, but I can go ahead and open a document. So let's go ahead and open a list of documents. I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm curious, are there more than these 7 important documents? Maybe there are more that I don't have up right now in my 8,700. Let's run a search for those. And I'll go ahead and click on that, and it's going to bring up that search. And I take a look at that binder, and yes, I've got 27 documents in there. Here's the first one. And now I can take a look at that. How would I review this document? And I can go ahead and say, I want to use a different workspace to do that. And if I have 2 monitors, as many of us do, I can go ahead and open that on a linked workspace. So I'm going to open a few different panes. Of course, we're on a one-screen demonstration here, so we're going to pretend. I'll do this just for a moment and put this here. But if I am on a laptop, as I was just earlier when I travel, I just go ahead and switch over to that workspace right here. This is the same one. But here I'd like to just show you how it works across screens. So I chose a linked workspace, and so that means that you see these buttons here. I'm in 1 of 27, just as I see them up here. And so I can advance through the documents with the screen staying in sync. And this means I can have a lot of different views of documents and lists available to me and keep everything together. So you'll see I'm moving through the list. Let's go back to that first document, and then I'm just going to maximize this so we can take a look together. So here on the left, I have the view pane. I can see the document, and I've got some hit highlighting for those keywords that were pointed out to me in the list. And the privilege terms I've chosen to have be in red with the search terms in green. And I can, especially if it's longer than this document, move from hit to hit, as you'll see here. In the center, I have some information about related documents. So I can see, for example, that this is a cover email with a number of attachments. And I can also see which ones are coded and which ones are not. So the blue, as we saw before, and over here on the right, are not yet reviewed documents. Red is the privileged and green is the relevant. So those colors are always keying me into what's been going on in my review. I can take a look at those. So for example, I can switch over and take a look at that Excel. And it looks pretty nice here, but we have also the opportunity to look at it in the Office Online Viewer and interact with the Excel as an Excel. And so I've got tabs and all of those features that the custodian would have had as well. During the processing, we'll flag whether there is perhaps hidden columns, hidden rows, etc. So that's what this little icon means here. And I actually have toggled on to just always show me that content. I always want to be able to see that when I'm in this view. Let's go ahead and go back to the email just for a moment. And let's code that document together. So here on the right-hand side, I can do the coding. So while I could choose to code it right here, just change that, I may want to do more than just tag it as relevant. So in this coding screen over here, we have the option to set coding rules or conditions that will guide my review. And so here, for example, if I code it as relevant, I didn't choose either of the choices that included privilege, the red and the pink choices. And so additional privilege coding, what kind of privilege, is not needed. And Ringtail shows me that by downplaying that in gray. But I do need, and you can see the little red star that we all know from filling out internet forms. It says, hey, you need to work over here. And I need to say why. And once I give a relevance detail, I've done that issue coding. Coding is complete, and I can move to the next document. Those rules, of course, can be configured to match your review criteria. These are just examples. When I move to the next document, I now have this option down here to code this document just like the last one. Ringtail uses its analytics to group like documents together, and so we want to make it possible for you to just apply coding just like the last one with one click. In addition, you can save other combinations if there are combinations you use often, favorite coding combinations, as buttons here. And those numbers are keyboard shortcuts. One more thing I want to show is just redaction. So I'm going to jump over here, and we'll take a look at this document in the image view. And I'm going to just get a little more space. I'm going to use these collapsing buttons because I'd like you to be able to take a nice look at this document. And I'll give you a big view of it because it's a little bit dense. So I'm going to remove the current redactions and draw them again with you. So this is a document that's an image, and Ringtail has, standard redactions, black boxes. We've all been making them for years, or white boxes, and you can have them for various reasons. I just have top secret right here. But Ringtail clients prefer to use color. It's much easier to tell what the reason is. So if I see red, I know that's privilege, for example, and again, of course, configurable. And if I see blue, I know that's privacy. And I can also see whether I've truly covered the correct information. At time of production, I just check a box and choose how I want to put it in the production, black or white, etc. I can do full page and full document redaction. So I might say, you know what, I want to redact pages 1 through 3 and page 7 of this 11-page PDF. And that would go ahead and do that. And if I have a searchable PDF, I'm able to do find and redact. And so here, for example, I'm actually using my search term list. I can have a list of terms. In this case, my search term list be highlighted. And this list can include regular expressions, proximity, things like that, wildcards, etc. So here you'll see the word power and risk, and I'm seeing where those hits are across the document. You see the page numbers here. I'll just stay on this first page. And they're highlighted for me here. And so I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and say, you know what, all of those ones on the first page look good. Let's make them top secret. And it will redact. So that's the find and redact capability. So I'll just jump back out. So here's a common coding screen, the ability to look at the document, learn more about it, either about its family, its threading, which I'll show in a moment, on another screen as well, and if there are similar documents. So you'll see this document actually has a number of documents that are conceptually similar, very high, almost 100% similar to this one. And so I may want to take a look and say, you know what, those 2 out of 3 are already coded relevant. I've coded this one relevant. Let me jump over and code this one that way too, and take care of it while I'm here. So I'm going to minimize my second monitor window for a moment, come back out to the list, and show you some email threading. And so for that, I'm just going to say I want to see email threads in my list. And I am going to pick a nice little small set of email threads to take a look at. And here we have a few different ones. This is an indicator that this is a thread. And because I've turned on threading, I am getting some of these icons here. So you'll see in this thread, for example, Astros season tickets. This is a nice clean one where people didn't break the chain. There's a reply, another reply, and then the last reply is the most inclusive email, the pivot email. And by reading this email, I'm able to read everything in the emails before. And Ringtail does the threading by comparing the body, attachments, recipients, and subjects. And so you'll see information about that as well. So you'll see, for example, here that a party was added, an attachment was removed, or an attachment was added as people reply to the email. At times, of course, there'll be more than one pivot in a chain when people forward or branch or reply back or, to an earlier email. So here you might have multiple pivots. I'm going to choose to use this email thread as a way to show you the ability to compare documents to one another. So I'm going to change my screen again to a new workspace that has a pane that lets me do that. So here I have the document, and before I move to the next one, I'm going to use this option here. It says to compare documents, set this as the anchor. I'll say, great, I want to compare the upcoming documents to this one, where Vince Kaminsky's asking for some baseball tickets. I'll just move to the next one, and there'll be a red line view of the email. And says, great, here's the reply. Kathy, yes, I would like the tickets. And as I scroll down, you can see right there, there's the original content. This, of course, can be used for lots of other things. I'm just showing it with email threading. It works with Excel. You can see where people have changed the values in Excel. And it does group changes so that you can move from change to change. I just have the one here. So that's valuable for a lot of different comparison scenarios. I'm going to turn the threading off because the next thing I'll show you is the ability to redact native Excels. So I'm going to bring up some Excels and then switch my screen to have a pane for that. So here I've got 2 Excels right here. And what I'd like to do is be able to look at them, but then also draw redactions right on the Excel. And I'm going to preserve the original Excel, but be able to produce a redacted copy. So I'll just collapse this, get a little more space, and we'll take a look at that. Now this is with an integration with the Accelerator program. In the demo here, I have to sign in again, but in production, when clients use it, that's not necessary. And so I'm able to do that. So here, for example, is the Excel, and actually this is a little bit of a cooking show scenario. I've already applied them over here, but on the right is where I apply the redaction. So I see this and I can say, you know what, these are the cells I'd like to redact, select and choose to redact. I can also choose to redact everything but this, and with Excel that's really key. And you can do that multiple times to expose maybe just the 3 rows that you need. You can redact the entire worksheet. You can do a targeted redaction, which is a regular expressions, as I've done up here with the search for digits, just something really simple. Or I can do a text redaction, which is where I redact just a piece of a cell. So I have examples of each of those here. And on the left, you can see in the view pane, just as we saw previously, you can see the way that it was applied afterward. So you'll see privacy is there, and I'm able to produce this. We do have the original, of course, available as well. I can show that to you on this screen here, the original. So that's native Excel redaction. One more interesting feature like that, just a different data type that I'll bring up, is the ability to transcribe and redact audio. And so I'll choose this audio file, and again, just change my screen over to a pane that will let me work with this particular data type. And so here, this is you know what, I don't know how audio will play through here, so I haven't thought about that for the webinar itself, but this is a TED Talk. We hit the transcribe button right here, but now it's grayed out because I've already done it. And if I were to go ahead and say, let's play this, it will go ahead and play. I don't know if you'll hear it. But you can see the karaoke feature, as I call it. And when it gets to the black box, that's the redaction I've applied, instead of playing the audio, it cuts out, and there's a white or blank space. So we cut that out, and the redaction is here. I've done a redaction here. And you can see I've also done some corrections. So if needed, audio transcription from time to time, may not be exactly what there might be a term of art that you need to correct. There is also the ability to do find and redact when you use the audio file. So here, for example, I can do a find and redact, just like we did on the PDF. So I can search for the word you, and I see the timestamps. Oh, sorry, I think my mouse just moved. I can see the timestamps for that, as well as choose to redact those. So that's the audio redaction. So I'm going to jump back sort of to regular review. I did want to show you that we have these other capabilities, but if we jump back to the idea of a regular review, and maybe put up a few more documents, we have the ability to do conceptual mapping and visual concept clustering. So I'm bringing up about 6,000 documents here in my list, and I can certainly work through them, on my monitor and just review them and sort them, of course, as I need. But what I'd really like to do is leverage the fact that Ringtail can pull out the concepts in the documents and organize them for me. And so I'm going to switch my workspace here. I'm going to keep browse and list, but I'm going to add timeline and map. The timeline is displayed up here. You'll see this bar chart, like a city skyline, and you'll see that for each time period, I can see how many documents exist. And it's going to auto scale to the time period that my documents are in. And then the map, what it's doing is dynamically, it doesn't have these sort of preset clusters or sets, dynamically laying out these 6,164 documents. And around the circle here are the top concepts that came out. And so, for example, you'll see lunch and interview. And so I may, decide that's not really where I want to pay attention. Recruiting and lunch, that's not what Enron got in trouble for. And over here, I see Houston, London, review, visit. This looks like coordinating a visit across offices. So where in the 6,000 documents do I want to spend my time? Now, if I come over here, I start to see power and company, group and option, volatility. Let's dig into that. So I'm going to zoom in. And get closer to that. So as I'll stop there for a moment. As I get closer, we can see these are clusters, and I can see some pie charts. And these colors indicate the same thing that they do in the list. So this circle is 105 documents, and that green means that they're relevant. And the blue means that they're not uncoded documents. So 57% of the documents are coded, and they're all relevant thus far. They're consistently coded. At the top, it says gas and power. Those are the top concepts that drew these 105 documents together from across the 6,000. And that long list in yellow there is the list of titles. The white are the next level concepts. So after gas and power, we've got unrealized gain, Dynegy, which comes up a lot in Enron. This looks like a really interesting cluster for me to take a look at. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. And as I get closer, and I cross this threshold right here, I'm going to be able to see the individual documents. So here, I'll just put it right in the center. So here are the individual 105 documents, and you'll see they're in a swirl pattern or spiral. And that center document is responsible for the other documents being in this cluster as opposed to another cluster. And so a lot of folks will start by looking at that center document and working their way out. And if you look at a few documents in the center and a few at the end, and they're really similar, the things in between will be similar too. So let's take a look at these documents. So just like when in the browse pane, I was able to choose, and I said, let me see which ones are the important documents, and I checked a box. I can do the same thing here. I'm going to click this cluster. It's selected. These 105 are selected. And my list now shows me those. This first document is that center document. And if I still have my other monitor open, I'm able to start reviewing it right here. And now I've got my list. I'm on one of 105, and I can start working. So you can see how the double monitor option, along with these different panes always being in sync, can be very powerful. I can just work right through this cluster of documents and get that review done. You'll see here, of course, the color coding indicates what I've done thus far. And in the timeline, I'm now able to see where these documents fall. And when I looked at these titles, it looks like there's some daily reports in there, Monday, Wednesday, daily, for example. And I see that for my second half of my time period, I've got a decent spread there, but it does look like I might be missing some from the earlier time period. So I'm getting a lot of information there too. So this can be used for review. It can be used for quality control. So as you see in the cluster next to it, we have documents that are coded relevant, but we also have documents coded privileged. That's something we'd want to take a look at if we're doing quality control or an investigation, perhaps. So that's something that's helpful. I'm going to just zoom all the way out for a moment. Sometimes in an investigation, we'll actually jump down here. There are a set of documents down here that I'll just throw in the center and then zoom in on that fall down to the bottom. They cluster together, but they don't really fit into the larger picture. And this is often where hot documents are found. And, documents that are a bit unusual given the overall population. So the maps can be useful for a lot of different things. We have another visualization that I'd like to show you that helps you think about who is communicating with whom. So while I was able, for example, in the people section here to see who the players are, I might want to see more than that. I want to see how they're speaking to one another. So I'll bring up a set that's just email here. And I'm going to go ahead and change my screen over to show, instead of the map, a social network view. And the social network view can certainly be used next to the map as well, but for the purposes of our demo, we'll just do them one at a time. And so here I've got about 5,000 documents this time. And Ringtail starts by showing me the top 5 communicators. So here, for example, Vince, whose email I processed at the beginning, he's the biggest communicator. He's sent almost 3,300 emails, and he's received, almost about the same amount, pretty even. And he emails himself a lot, as you'll see there. So that's interesting. And if you take a look, he is sending some stuff outside the company. So interesting behavior there. I can see how much he emails Kevin. I can see how much he emails Shirley. About twice as often as she emails him. And I can always choose to take a look at the communication between particular individuals. So I'm going to go ahead and click this here. And I'll see, for example, that there are 76 documents in which Stinson and Zemin speak. And notice Shirley and Vince are in white, but Kevin and red, Kevin's not highlighted. Kevin's left out of that. He's not a part of it. Poor Kevin. But there may be people in the top 5 who are outside the top 5 who are. And maybe I want to look at that. And so I get these indicators here in red of the individuals who also are on these that maybe I want to add to my view. And I can do that and then just redraw the view and take a look. I'll click off for a second and that'll be unselected just to show you that you can move these around. So if there's ever a time where you want to explore a particular connection, you can go ahead and expose that. I'll show one more thing on social, which is you can also start by saying, I have somebody I want to take a look at. Let's take a look at Grant, and particularly his sent email. I want to know who he spoke with. And I can say, you know what, just show me everybody with that red bubble, chat bubble. Everyone he speaks to and nobody else. So that's Grant's social network. He's right there in the center, and that's everybody that he emails. We have the exact same functionality to show you how domains communicate with one another. I don't have enough time to show that, but it's the exact same thing. Before I'm looking at the time, I have about 10 more minutes. I'd like to just say, okay, I'm going to use the map, the social network view, all of those things to do my review. Maybe I want to check on my review progress. So I'm going to go over to the analysis area here and check my review dashboard. And you'll see, for example, that Ringtail's giving me a summary of, in this case, the review set. And it's saying, okay, we're 24% coded. Now this is a demo environment, so with one document a day that I code in the demos, it's going to take me a long time to finish. But of course, this is going to give you estimates that are working off your actual review statistics. I get a breakdown of the review coding overall here. So I can see, for example, how much privilege is accumulating and know how much privilege log work I might have to do. And down here, I can see individual reviewer statistics. I can see, for example, this person is coding everything privileged. Is that what I'd like to see? So when the real review is going on, if these bars are out of step with the group, it's an immediate key that maybe I want to go talk to that individual and find out if there's something about their assignment, or do I need to do some correction of their review instructions? Of course, review can also be supported with predictive coding, and we have both kinds of that here. I will jump into the first one to sort of speak about them in the order in which they came into the industry. So here we have predictive coding, the initial predictive coding, where TAR 1.0, where I have a training set of about 500 documents. I expand that out again and then a third time. Each time I can see that my precision is going up and my projected positives are going down. And I say, you know what, great, maybe I want to use that third model. Well, let's take a look at what that would look like compared against a comparison sample. So that's a sample that I've kept separate as an answer key. And so here, I'm going to get a visual that's going to let me explore the interaction between recall and precision in my particular data. And so Ringtail's going to score every document that I'm thinking about reviewing or producing from -1 to +1. And then it's going to show me, you know, depending on what score you pick. For example, if I go right here, these are the documents here, this mountain range back here. If I choose right here at this score, I'm getting a pretty good recall, and the precision is all right. The X here, of course, it demonstrates that you can't have it all, that for higher levels of recall, you have lower levels of precision. But then I can decide where I want to draw that line and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and maybe produce or review, depending, of course, on the matter, everything with a score of this or higher. And of course, we can use sampling and other analytics, including the map and others, to explore the remainder documents and really get comfortable with what we may have left behind. There's a projections chart here that helps me understand how I would affect my review burden as I move. So for example, if I want to get better than 65% recall, the general review recall, I get to 85%, I find out 1,200 more documents that I'm looking for. I have to review about 8,000 more. Maybe that's something that's worth it to me. But to find another 600 and get to 1,800 more, it's certainly probably not worth it to me to review another 20,000 or 21,000. So Ringtail helps you with that. That's the standard predictive model. We also have continuous active learning. So here I'll take an example where I've got about 30,000 documents. I have it configured to look for relevancy. And again, I've got that -1 to +1, familiar from the last example. This again is a distribution of the documents. Most of them are hanging out around here around score 0.2, but there's some right here pretty close to 1. And so every time as review goes on, I configure whether it's hourly, twice a day, what have you, whatever works for me, to rescore documents. And that will allow me to learn as people review and find the documents that are here before I ever get to these documents. And if I use a comparison sample, I then get a projection of how many documents I'm looking for and a sense of maybe when I want to stop review. And this, of course, is a bit simpler for review and can be done on any review. Of course, the predictive models can as well, but there's more statistics and upfront work to do there. All I do is set what I'm looking for and how often I want to score documents. All right. Once, of course, review is finished, I may want to produce documents. So I'll just end with a little bit of that and then mention one more thing. So here we can make Ringtail productions. Ringtail has a production module, full-fledged production module. I name the production, I set my base numbers. Ringtail creates, automatically loads a copy back in. So I just say where I want that to be of the produced copy. I can sort it down here on anything I'd like. Here's where I set those redactions. So I've chosen to say the blue ones are going to be black. The red ones are going to be black and say redacted for privilege. I set my footers. This is my base number. Confidentiality, I can get more fancy if I need to. And then here is where, depending on what I need to produce, I can create what I call the recipe for the production. So if I need to produce not just PDFs, but Excel natively, for example, I can do them native with a placeholder. And I can set what kind of text handling I want as well. And I just type in here to say what I want the placeholder to say. And then maybe I need my emails, both image and native. And these 6 emails will be there. So I just go ahead and add a new line to the recipe and make those choices. Ringtail will also check my work for me. So based on those choices that I made, it says, great, you said you want to produce certain things with images. Do you have those images? And I go ahead and run this. And if I don't, I'll get a link. And so down here, the example here, I have 12 documents that don't meet a criteria. This is a check that I made for myself. It's not a core Ringtail check. So if there's an important field, maybe production approved, this is checking for that and saying 12 of your 17 documents are not coded in that. And this link will take me to those and I can resolve it. So really pushing you to be able to do all that production resolution work up front rather than having to do it at the end, especially because production timelines are so difficult. When I'm done, I lock the production and I go ahead and do that, and then it looks like this. So these productions here are locked. This one has the base numbers, etc. I choose whether I want to produce it with a load file. Ringtail can absolutely do load files that aren't Ringtail load files, as you can see here. The Ringtail load file is our legacy, but certainly not a requirement at all. We are happy and often use DAT and OPT, for example. There's an Excel spreadsheet one that actually will include links to the files that are exported. We can do iPro, summation, etc. So I go ahead and create the one that I'd like and just go ahead and add the fields that I need. So here, for example, these first fields are the core ones, and then I've added others that I need. And I just go ahead and add them very, very simply. I say, great, which fields do I want to add? And I just check them off. To get the data out, I say, great, I ran a production. I would like to get the load file, so the production DAT for this production, and I want the load file and everything that comes with it, and hit save. It'll queue it up for me right here, and I just download that. So here, for example, that's the ABC production with a DAT file. I hit download. Again, I can use a spare if I want to, and I will get a little window and a zip file. So that's how that works. With my, it's 1:45. I'm going to go one more minute. With my last minute, I want to tell you just one more important thing about Ringtail, which is that we've expanded the expanded Ringtail to work on more than just documents. So Ringtail's always had a data model, and that data model has always been documents. So for example, on the search screen, we've been working in documents all along, but you can choose to track other information. Anything you're tracking in SharePoint or in Excel, you can say you want to track here. So for example, evidence is something that I like to track. So I would go ahead and say, I want to look at that. And notice these choices now relate to evidence. And these are things I decided I want to track and created fields for. So I'm going to go ahead and say, show me all the evidence items that I have and bring them up. And now my list is going to show me evidence. So here is going to be a list instead of documents of the 6 PSTs I processed for Vince Kaminsky that we all pretended to process at the beginning. And then I can have related information. Who's the custodian? Which documents do they come from? What hard drive? What processing job? And over here is where I'd fill that out. So here I know the evidence items, you know, what kind they are, has the collection shipped, etc. And I can click on any of these things and adjust that. This will adjust now and tell me I can put the information in about that hard drive. This is just one example. Other examples include the ability to create profiles or a cast of characters, events in a case that you want to tie information to, or even the complaints and motions and things like that that you might want to load up into Ringtail. So this is very exciting and very customizable. I think I have to end now, so there's going to be time for questions. Thank you so much.
Hey, Emily, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much for that amazing demonstration. And your timing I was watching my clock, and you basically wrapped up right on time, which is truly spectacular to have covered that much depth and breadth of product so quickly and efficiently. So that was amazing. Thank you very much. So
no problem.
Throughout the call, throughout the session, we got a couple of questions that came in. Some of them I picked off sort of one-on-one. Some other ones were sort of more broad-based, and one was, effectively, how do I get content into the system for review? And I think sort of Emily touched on that in two different ways. One way is, and actually it looks like she's going to show me as we speak.
Yeah, you talk, I'll drive.
Perfect. Yeah. So one is if you want to load native files. So essentially a native file ingestion, you want to point to PSTs, you want to point to anything that you can process with the Nuix engine. Essentially, it's really point, click, go. Drag, grab your files off disk, and off you go. Ringtail has been integrated, obviously, to be able to directly consume source evidence, but also you can upload it with Aspira to accelerate that process, as you're seeing live. The other element, and sort of, I guess I should say, once you select that upload and hit the default button, it will actually execute a full end-to-end automated workflow. That includes date filtering, deduplication, MIME type, running search hit reporting, doing the analytics, etc. So that when that data arrives inside your case and is part of your case dashboard, you immediately have access to all of that information. So when we think about how do you load it, you can load raw source evidence. You also have the ability to do a full sort of import, which is effectively, how do I load someone else's production? How do I consume a Ringtail load file that has been created from an existing Nuix case? How do I bring in a concordance load file, etc. So you can get data into the system through sort of almost every means conceivable, whether it's native file ingestions or pre-produced collections, and all the way down to sort of how you can think about extending that. As we were going through sort of some of the early enablement, sort of everything from the field mapping, overlaying text, all of the capabilities that you would expect as part of a fully featured enterprise system that's been built to manage review. Emily, great sort of navigation while I'm speaking. One of the other questions that came in is around sort of one, sort of pretty basic one, which is how do I get more information? And so you can go out to sort of, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just laughed. That's all. That's a great question. I like it.
Yeah. So how do I get more information? And you can easily go out to exactly. You can go to ringtail.com or you can go to nuix.com and basically request a demo, and sort of you can schedule a one-on-one demo, and someone from Nuix will reach out to you to be able to sort of provide you some additional information. Let's see, what else do we have? The other question that came in that I thought was particularly important is you showed us, Emily, today a lot of analytics. You went through the document mapper, and it was actually sort of someone commented that, really the synergies between Nuix and Ringtail are phenomenal. I mean, Nuix talks about the DNA of data, and the document mapper has an unbelievable semblance to sort of looking at a DNA strand and how you think about sort of that double helix winding down. So I thought that was a particular nuanced view that sort of what that allows you to do is really drill into the DNA of data, which is sort of, something that Nuix holds core to its belief. But so you showed unsupervised learning, you showed conceptual clustering, you showed predictive analytics, you showed visual analytics, you showed continuous active learning. How many plugins were required from sort of third parties or things like that to provide that full complement of analytics?
For the map, for the social view, for the predict, for the cal, none.
Wow, that's really amazing. It's sort of, and as part of a single platform, sort of we're able to deliver that entire spectrum of analytics, all from a single integrated view. Emily, one of the other things that sort of when we've been going through this, and it's And it's actually unfortunate that we only have one screen, because I've seen you demonstrate across these workspaces, across multiple monitors. Can you touch just for a moment on sort of like the power of having that? You don't necessarily need to show it, but if you're sort of thinking about the various workspaces and sort of all of the other types of views that you can bring to data analytics.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. The whole idea with the workspaces, and maybe I'll just show how, like these, I have saved ones and I moved through them because of the time, but creating them is so, you know, it's just right here. You just say, how many things do I want? And you just say, you know what, I want that browse panel so I can select my search terms if I need to. I want that list because I want to be able to see some information in there. And then you can pick whatever you'd like. But you can have up to 5 panes. And then you can have your 2 monitors, and you can really decide how you want to work it. And another thing that really helps is these, and I'll just get a screen with a little bit more stuff on it, these collapsers as well. So I can say, you know what, I need to see that, but not right away. I'll put that over here. So there's a lot of flexibility to set the ones that work for you, as well as to set the ones you want other people to use and push them out. And the fact that they all talk to one another, it's really hard to describe how powerful that is. Any selection made here would ripple not just across the screen, but all the way to the next set of documents, or sorry, the next set of screens on my second monitor. So I can have, I can use my primary monitor to navigate and figure out which documents I want. For example, so I could have the list, I can have the map, I can have the social, all next to one another. And so when I select a line in the social, I'm able in the map to see what they're talking about. And then on my other screen, I can have the individual sort of street level view, the document with that related information. I can even have, and this is something, you know, sometimes I forget that is even maybe special, is I can look at a document, I'm just going to bring one up. I can look at a document, maybe this PDF, for example, in 2 different ways. I can have 2 views of the same document, and that can be helpful as well, because maybe I'd like to see both those keyword hits as well as the image, the way that it's displaying. So I don't have to move across, sort of, you know, hide one view to see another. And so that's just incredibly helpful as I do my work.
Yeah, Emily, thank you so much. And really sort of, you know, what that last comment sort of really sort of speaks, I think, volumes to sort of the efficiency gains that you can realize from within Ringtail as you're sort of moving through a large document collection. You're not having to hide and show windows. You're not looking around for different browser windows, but you can basically set up your mission control view of how you want to move through this corpus and then really achieve great efficiencies. Like sort of as we've been digging into this and talking about, you know, the fastest possible means of conducting a linear review, the Ringtail engineering team has done some amazing things to pre-cache results, to basically anticipate that next move such you're getting the fastest possible doc-to-doc time. You know, you talked about the conditional coding aspects. And so all of these sort of efficiencies, you know, are really geared towards what is at the end of the day, a process by which reviewers have to move through large collections of documents swiftly and efficiently, making coding decisions. And Ringtail delivers all of that sort of amazing virtue and value. So that's really cool. You know, you also showed us sort of all of the powerful analytics. And sort of, so when you combine all of those things with a really powerful, and I use the phrase, you know, platform that has been built for the business of review, with all of the reporting, all of the multi-tenancy, sort of when you pair all of that sort of industrial enterprise grade capability with Nuix's processing engine to basically ensure that you're getting down to the DNA of data, you know, we believe at Nuix that we've got a really sort of amazing opportunity. And so since I've been kind of monitoring the question blog, so I don't necessarily see more, I think I will wrap up with Emily. Thank you so very much. This has been a fantastic demonstration. I would like to thank all of the attendees for sort of taking some time out of your day. Your call to action, if you want to learn more and you're existing Nuix customer, please reach out to your account manager. If you're new to Nuix, please visit our website and sign up to get more information. And let us know. You know, as you can tell, I'm super excited about this and sort of can't wait to sort of take the next steps with each and every one on the call. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll sign off. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, attendees.
Thanks. Bye.